to one lady. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Media Boat Podcast, your weekly breakdown where we talk about movies, TV, music, and video games. Not necessarily in that order. My name is Mike. His name is Matt.
My name is Matt. His name is Mike. Thank you for joining us today on the Media Boat Podcast. Today is March 20th, 2025. Little voice crack there. 2025. And today is episode 479. Yeah, all of the things that he said we're going to go through today. We're going to try to do a quick one here, but we've got a lot to talk about. So let's jump right into it.
We're going to start with the music section. Start the music section with the Billboard. Start the Billboard with the Hot 100. And let me know if any of this sounds familiar to you. Because number one is Luther by Kendrick Lamar and SZA. At two, Die with a Smile by Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars. Coming in at three, Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar. At four, a bar song, Tipsy by Shabuzi, throwing the Tipsy back in there. And
Yeah.
running at your top five, TV Off by Kendrick Lamar, featuring Lefty Gunplay. Wait, that way.
This is how old I am. I literally just went this to turn a TV off. The Zoomers are like, what?
Yeah, you got to clap on now.
Oh man, I wish there was a clap on, clap off for my television. That'd be great.
I mean, technically you could because it's just the outlet that you plug it onto. All right. But anyways, as for your albums chart, you Billboard 200. At number one is, of course, Mayhem by Lady Gaga, as it was always intended to be. At number two, GNX by Kendrick Lamar. At three, Some Sexy Songs for You by Party Next Door and Drake. At four, SOS by SZA. And running at your top five, So Close to What by Tate McRae.
Yep. Only one minor change or a couple minor changes from last week. Well, obviously on the Billboard 200, you have the debut of Mayhem coming at number one in his first week. And then, yeah, as for the Hot 100, a bar song moved back up and swapped places with TV off.
If you like any of those albums, we have new releases, starting with
What was that?
that, of course, is The Screaming of the Valkyries
Oh,
by Cradle of Filth.
Cradle of Firth. Is that Colin Firth's band?
I saw C and Firth, and I was like, oh, that's Colin Firth. Nope, Cradle of Filth.
He should be in a band. He should start a band called Cradle of Firth. He should do that.
uh, Maybe that's his autobiography. We next have Four Melancholy Brunettes and Sad Women by Japanese Breakfast. Sounds delicious.
Even though I'm not necessarily in that demographic that she's describing, I do plan on listening to this.
Because you, of course, fall in line with the melancholy brunettes.
I guess so. I don't know. Brunettes are usually, I don't know, less gray than.
We also have Trailblazer by Lola Kirk. Is by My Morning Jacket.
Uh-huh.
I Said I Love You First by Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco,
Yes.
which I believe is they're married, right? Or engaged?
They're engaged.
Okay.
I don't think they've gotten married yet.
Okay, so this is what breaks them up then.
Yeah, creative differences.
Yes. There's also Nightlife by The Horrors. And lastly, Power Suckers by Young Widows.
Yep.
All right, let's get into the
Eclectic bunch.
music. Let's get into the music news. And hey, everyone's favorites in the news now, Limp Bizkit. Well, he's allowed to move forward with his lawsuit against Universal Music Group.
Hey,
That
do you think if he loses it, he's gonna break stuff?
probably, but he alleges that the Universal Music Group label deliberately withheld as much as $200 million in royalties, which of course begs the question, is Limp Bizkit really worth $200 million?
I don't know. Fred Durst seems to think so.
Well, the claims against the music company range from breach of contract to fraudulent concealment, fraudulent business practices, copyright infringement, and more. Everyone's favorite, breach of contract, the more section.
Yeah.
In a decision filed on March 17th and reviewed by Variety, of course, Judge Percy Anderson ruled that Limp Bizkit frontman Fred Durst will have to refile a majority of his claims in state courts, whether it be in California or New York. The judge also denied UMG's motion to dismiss the band's allegations of copyright infringement, allowing those claims to proceed in federal court. Monday's ruling states the assessment of the copyright claims will depend on whether or not the band can successfully rescind their contracts with UMG, thus regaining ownership of said copyrights. Judge Anderson previously denied Fred Durst's first attempt to have these contracts voided in a January ruling. However, his latest decision will now reopen that debate.
Yeah, so it's a complicated story here, but it's also kind of a silly one. I mean, everybody remembers Limp Bizkit. It's just funny that they think that they're owed all of this money. It's like, well, what happened? I feel like there's something of the story that we're missing somewhere. Like, how did Fred Durst find out that they were owed all this money?
Okay, even if you just given just the blanket statement that over the past 20 years they haven't paid Limp Bizkit their worth, you're telling me that on average they are $10 million worth of Limp Bizkit material since 2005?
Hmm. I guess.
I
I
mean,
don't know.
that's rough estimate of how you get to that number.
I don't know, but I hope he tells the judge if the judge does him wrong to shove it up his several times.
Yeah. No, you
Shove
gotta
it
go
up.
up on that.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, you
God.
gotta go.
Ugh. Anyways,
Anyways, did you listen to anything that's not Limp
uh,
Bizkit?
no, just Mayhem one more time. Some smaller stuff. Kind of a slower year so far. Kind of waiting for the big bangers to come out.
I mean, you have Cradle of Filth coming out. That's the big banger.
And Cradle of Firth too.
Yes. And Selena Gomez coming out. Big
Yeah, I'll probably
banger.
check that out too. I know Christy's going to be interested in at least half of it.
The Benny Blanco part.
Oh, yeah, clearly she's a big fan.
Yep. Big fan of
All
that
right,
hair.
let's
Let's
move on.
get into new video games where we start with new releases
Big release
and
week.
yeah, including Atelier Yumiya, The Alchemist of Memories, and The Envisioned Land. Wide release. You can play it, except for the Switch. We also have Bleach, Rebirth of Souls for everything but the Switch. Urban Jungle for the PC. Uh, Dark Deity 2 for the PC. Breakout Beyond, wide release. You got it. You can play it everywhere, including the Switch. Also on the Switch, Xenoblade Chronicles Cross, Definitive Edition. Although I'm pretty sure that's an actual X or
It's an
P.
X.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is a Switch exclusive.
Yes, a Switch re-release of a Wii U game.
Definitive Edition.
Yeah.
We also have Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 Complete Edition for PS4, PS5, Xbox Series X, and Xbox One, Xbox Series X. And finally, your much delayed release that's kind of been getting some decent reviews. Assassin's Creed Shadows finally comes out for the PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X.
Yeah, I have also been hearing good things. It seems like Assassin's Creed fans will be happy that it's kind of a return to form after the bloat of the last couple of what releases. It seems like it's. Let's see a lot of people saying, shouting out Origins and Odyssey, that kind of RPG style Assassin's Creed experience.
All right. A lot of people liked Origins, and we just had the Ides of March.
Yeah.
Spoilers if you never played those games.
Those are good games. I played a little bit of both, and yeah, so
Yes, spoiler
maybe
for a 10-year-old game.
yeah, right. And I think this one sounds pretty good.
All right. Let's get to video game news where we have a crossover with video
Yeah,
games with My Back Wall
yeah, pretty much.
as the Pokemon Company. Yes, that Pokemon Company. And the Lego Group. Yes, all those Legos that I have back there have announced that Lego. I just realized that me saying all those Legos I have back there does not play on a pod.
No,
It's a
it doesn't.
visual joke.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, they have announced jointly that Lego Pokemon sets are coming soon, dealing a big blow to the Pokemon Mega Block sets that you may
That's
have
in the
purchased in the
story. That's
meantime.
at the end of the story.
Yes. A short teaser trailer has been posted by both groups, which features, of course, yellow bricks forming the tail of a Pikachu. Not the Pikachu, but a Pikachu. Well, that Pikachu tail then uses an electric attack to illuminate the Lego and Pokemon logos. The first sets from the collaboration are expected next year, 2026, because no further information was provided. The building brick toy rights to Pokemon, as I just said, were previously held by Mega, aka the Mega Block series, which those series of Pokemon building toys included brick built figures of popular Pokemon like Charizard and Pikachu and Eevees and Squirtles. I think there was also a Gengar one that I saw too, as well as physical locations and items like Pokeballs, Pokemon Stadium, and of course a Pokedex.
Yes.
No word on if all of these will now be transformed into official Lego merchandise.
I imagine this will be a slow drip. They'll announce them, they'll make a big deal out of them, and a couple months later they'll be available
And you won't see
next year.
anything until Pokemon Day 2026, where they'll
Yeah.
be like, hey, remember when we teased this? Here's the official first three sets to be released.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty similar to what they've been doing with their Nintendo other Nintendo brands, like the Mario ones, like the most recent Mario Kart set and the Animal Crossing sets. Like they'll spread it out. They'll like make it a big deal when they do a new one. Yeah, to be expected. But it's a cool idea. I would love to build a Pikachu.
Yeah, you ready for $250 Pikachu?
Yeah, I'm always ready.
I mean, that's what they're gonna do for the first three, right? A Pikachu, a Pokeball, and a Pokedex, right? Has to be the first three.
Maybe I could see it.
And then slow drip into the different Pokemon as they come out. Uh, yeah, but I'm excited for this. I know I'm getting you this for holiday 2026 when it will officially be released. Just
Yeah.
calling it out right now. So it's in the works. It's a coming. But yeah, if you had those Mega Blocks Pokemon sets, one, probably still get them at Target right now if you hurry up. But two, those now typically have a limited shelf life before they become collector's items
Yeah.
of a far begone era. And for all you collectors out there with the Pokemon TGC uh editions that are just hoarding everything, now you got something else to fill your rooms with.
Ugh, don't even put that energy in the air. We don't need scalpers to try to get those things too.
All right. Well, instead of putting that energy in the air, help me pour some energy into hitting baseballs really, really, really far.
Yes, if you love to do that, well, there's a new digital way to do that in, which is MLB The Show 25. It's a tradition on the Media Boat podcast. Every year we talk about this game, and this year is no different, except for the fact that I actually had to pay the full $70 this year. But yeah, I have played MLB The Show 25. I have seen most of the new stuff this year. I'll be brief since we have to be a little shorter on the show. Basically, all that you need to know is that it's better. It looks better. There's a little bit of a graphical upgrade thanks to the fact they're no longer backporting this. So there's no PS4 and Xbox One version this year, which means they could do a little bit more work since they know they're basically making the game for current consoles, Switch version notwithstanding. So yeah, a little bit more detail on the helmets. I noticed a little less slowdown in certain stadium scenes, a little more slowdown sometimes in certain situations. But generally speaking, it's a good looking game that looks definitely better than it did last year on the Xbox. I should say I'm playing on Xbox Series S. Um,
Oh,
but
the
yeah,
S, not the X.
or sorry, X. My bad. Yeah, Series X. But anyway, other than that, Road to the Show is a little more interesting this year. They added high school and college, but before you get too excited, just know you're only playing 2 games in high school and 2 games in college. You're not
Yes.
actually doing full careers. If you thought that would be what it is, it's not that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's similar to what the Madden does, where they give you either one game in high school to give you like the help build the backstory of your character, and then one game or two games in the college mode to
Yes.
where you're of like one of like four teams to play against.
Exactly. It's pretty much predetermined by your location where you go, and it's like only 4 colleges.
Hmm.
Actually, there might be more because I was being pursued. So basically, you do the high school championship game. You then start to be recruited by colleges. You basically commit to a college of your choice, and then you do the first draft. And then, just like in real life, when you are drafted, you can either choose to go straight to the majors or opt out, go to college, join the draft again when you're 21.
Hmm.
That is what I chose because I wanted to see what the college experience looked like. So yeah, none other than my actual alma mater, Cal State Fullerton, recruited me, and I got to play in their colors in the college championship game in Omaha.
Now, were you actual baseball or were you Natalie in softball?
So yes, that is a good question. Both the high school and college games are played with softball. No, regardless, I think of gender because, um, I guess. Well, it's soft. That's actually a good question. I think it's actually baseball because it's a co-ed in both cases. You're playing basically on the men's team
Okay.
when you play as a woman. I should mention this is again optional from last year. They brought over the same feature where you can play as a woman. However, weird thing about that, they don't act like you played last year's game. It is basically just the same plot line again.
Mhm.
So you played last year, and the whole storyline was you were the first woman in the majors. That's the same storyline again this year, and presumably will be forever. It doesn't
It's
seem like,
pitch.
yeah, it's just you're just doing that again. So I just had a lot of moments of deja vu, especially a lot of the dialogue in the mode is fully lifted from last year's game when you're talking to your best friend from high school. Except the difference this time is you actually get to play that high school game with your best friend, which wasn't in last year's game. But it was definitely weird to just see the same elements of those cell phone conversations with your bestie just done over again in the same plot points. Be like, oh, this is when I get to the majors, this is when the coach is going to show me my own quarters because I have to have a separate locker room because I'm a woman. That kind of thing. It's the same beats as last year's game. So if you played as a woman last year, just expect to see the same stuff over and like this over again this year. That being said, I do think it's cool that feature is back. Again, just like last year, all of the commentary has been recorded twice to include female pronouns, which is nice. So the same stuff is said just with she and her. Um, but anyway, to get back to what's universal about the mode, regardless of gender, is yeah. Once you get to that second draft, and there are also different. They've completely rebuilt the progression system. It's completely, they threw out the one from the last couple of years completely out the window and replaced it with a completely new system. Down, like every part of Road to the Show works differently now. So you're still getting points for your performance in the game, but instead of going to specific attributes, those points go to a pool of points, and you get tokens that you then RPG style spend on the attributes yourself. So at the end of the game, depending on your role, you might have like 1,000 points. That translates to 10 tokens. And then you put the tokens into different things. This leads to a weird wrinkle in the progression system that I don't really love. In the old game, everything basically funneled into your umbrella stats. And your umbrella stats determined your overall ranking. This year, you actually have to put in tokens into your umbrella stats separately from your pitches. Before they were linked, now they're separate. They refer to them as your tools and your pitches if you're a pitcher, or more like I don't know what the hitter equivalent is, but those are over there over somewhere else as well. So it's basically two categories. And any points you put into your pitchers, your pitching or hitting stats don't actually affect your overall ranking. Only the tools section does that. So I made the mistake early on thinking like, well, I want to be better. So obviously I'm going to put all of my points into increasing the velocity of my fastball, increasing the break of my, et cetera, those,
Mhm.
and only occasionally doing the more expensive tool stats. Well, I wasn't getting called up and I was wondering why in AAA. And then I realized, oh, it's because my overall ranking is still 65. I looked at the roster and, oh, by the way, I got drafted by the White Sox.
Again?
No, I was a Colorado Rocky last year. It
Oh,
goes
that's
to
right. I
show
was the
you
White Sox a while ago.
think needs the starting pitcher more. Uh,
Yes.
anyway, so the White Sox organization, all of their major pitchers were 70 or 75. So I was looking, I was like, oh, duh. They're not drafting me because on paper, I am not worth more than these guys. As good as my fastball is, they're never going to bring me in unless I start raising my overall ranking. And so I started just focusing on those tool stats. And that's when they finally called me up. They called me up when I hit 70. And I was like, this is what I thought. So yeah, I think that there are positives and negatives about the new progression system. I overall I think I like it because I do like it feels like a better drip feed of constant um, feedback about your performance. And there's fewer times in 25 than there were in 24 where I felt, well, shit, I had one bad game and now I'm fucked. It's a little better this year. It makes you feel like you are still progressing something, kind of no matter how your game goes, which is good, which is a positive. Jumped into franchise a little bit. It's a little easier to navigate that mode this year because they actually let you do a player lock, which is kind of nice. Um, and like customize when you enter games if you're like not interested in playing 162 full games. Diamond Dynasty is slightly different this year. There's a brand new kind of quest system. I haven't really gone into that because it requires me to hit. Uh, there's some new stories. They brought back the Negro League stories from last year
All
that
right.
continues this year. So yeah,
So, different stories, different players, or
yeah, the different stories than
okay,
last year, but it continues other Negro League stories as well as some
okay,
other more recent stories.
all right.
So yeah, it's the show.
Sounds good. If you like baseball, kind of sounds
Yeah,
worth the money, especially since it is
I think so.
all current gens upgrades.
Yeah, I agree. If you have a current gen console and you know you're going to play a lot of this, like I am, I think it's absolutely worth the money, regardless of whether or not it's on Game Pass, unfortunately. So,
All right. Well, if you don't want to spend $70 on a game, I've got a free game for you.
okay.
I ended up playing DC Dark Legion as we talked about last week, where I was just waiting for it to download and play. It is a hero game, but it's also a build your base game. So you have your DC heroes. They're thrown into the corruption of what's basically Battle World, Marvel's Battle World, DC Multiverse, Elseworlds, where different portals pop up and different futures from across the DC universe come in, and you got to battle them. You got to save the citizens, and you got to build up your Batcave base to help house everybody. I like that it's very simplistic in what it's doing. You see the big number, you see the big red button, you go there, you auto battle, and it's fun, and it's over within like 5 minutes tops. Some take eight. The thing that's grinding me, and where I am just now hitting kind of like the grinding limit, is waiting for these damn rooms to upgrade. Waiting for the war room to upgrade, taking a day, 18 hours, 48 hours, 30. It just keeps going up and up and up like it's supposed to. And I get that. But now I'm like, okay. So from since I basically kind of like ran through a lot of this stuff, my progression has quickly kind of stalled and starting to plateau, which I think is expected, especially out of most free mobile games. But I'm nowhere close to like feeling that itch of, well, I have to pay for stuff if I want to like progress now. I'm kind of more content just sitting out and waiting and not using any of the drones to boost stuff up. But that may just be my style of play too, to where, okay, I don't know, I know I need to jump into this anymore, or I've hit my kind of plateau for the day. I'll come back in a couple hours after I do some of these like longer missions, side missions and stuff. So I mean, your own kind of temperance will vary playing this kind of game. It is available on Steam as well if you prefer a more PC approach to it, to the point and click stuff. Otherwise, you can play on mobile and it's free. The mobile version is very vertical. I wish there was a horizontal version. There's not. But that would probably be my biggest gripe of this.
Okay.
Aside from the grindingness of it.
Yeah, but that's to be expected with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's good that it's not like completely roping you in like quite yet with that stuff. But
Yeah, it's not completely like shoving me bouncing off of it like other games I've recently played. But I do have some positive news for you.
oh,
I have touched it. I have reached the edge of infinity.
yeah.
I've completed all missions and side missions and regional missions of Infinity Nikki.
Wow, you did it.
I finally did it. Completionist brain in me finally checked off all the boxes.
I don't know how you had time for all of that, but okay.
Bubble. The fact that it's on bubble and I can jump in for 30 minutes and complete the daily stuff
Yeah, maybe
and the
maybe
once a
if I
day
was
stuff.
more willing to try that and not just have Balatro on my phone.
Maybe. But yeah, the fact that I was like, okay, I need to collect this. I need to finish it up. So I finally got my 5-star fresh dress and I was able to get that up and finish the last of the battles, the stylus battles. So I've completely wiped everything clear. I just now have to wait for the next event, which will occur within the next after the next 10 days. This current one's done.
Good job.
I did it.
You did
But
it.
now I have to go actually like craft all the sketches and find all the Wim stars and complete the Heart of Infinity, which I had most of it done, and that took forever. That was a bitch to do.
Yeah, sounds like it.
It was.
All right.
Uh, but yeah, still glad that I've only spent $3 whole on that game.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
They haven't got you, but they'll get you
Well, no,
soon
they,
with
they got
something.
me with a 2.99 special. That's why I said $3.
Hey, we can't all be strong 100% of the time.
I was weak because it was a cowboy outfit, and I was like, I gotta have the cowboy outfit. To be fair, it wasn't just
Wow.
a cowboy outfit. The cowboy outfit had a special ability to it, tied to it, which is that
Yeah.
you can summon a motorcycle wherever you're at. And I was like, yes, not only do I get to look like a cowboy, but I can ride anywhere and not have to go try and find a bike shop.
Wow.
Perfect.
Good
Worth
job.
the $3.
I guess so. All right, let's move on.
All right. Enough about video games. Let's get into television, where we got to talk about sports in the sports corner. Draft day. Kevin Costner is 1 month away as April 26th fastly approaches. But before we get to any of that, baseball season. Technically, we are still in middle spring training, but also technically, the Dodgers are kicking everyone's ass in the actual season as they are up 200% on literally everyone else in the league. Counterpoint, though, everyone in the league is infinitely better than the Cubs, who are now 200% under everyone. As the Dodgers play the Cubs in Japan, and Dodgers won both games, so they have now a 2-0 record.
Yeah, it was some fun stuff. I saw clips from both games. The intro is especially wild because it was Pokemon themed.
Yes.
There were Pikachu on the field. Christy was very upset that Shohei Ohtani did not high five the Pikachu when he entered. Many of his teammates did, but Ohtani was focused on high fiving those children.
Well, he was focused on hitting home runs, as he did
That
to
too.
begin the season.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So
he now
yeah,
is tied in leading the home run race. Everyone else just sucks, apparently.
they'll catch up. But yes, they'll catch up. In fact, on Thursday, the 27th, which
which
is
is
opening day.
which is next week when we
Yes.
record.
So next Thursday, mark it on your calendars, is actually when we will next record. So we'll be able to talk about the opening day games, which I intend on watching many of them. Thank you, MLB TV. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yes. But today is, well, next week, sorry, let me phrase this. Well, next week is opening day for MLB. Today is opening day for NCAA. And check your bracket. It may already be busted. Where's my college men's scoring? Gotta get the latest scores because it's currently going on as we're recording right now. And let's see if there's the big upsets so far. Number 3-1, number 2-1. I don't think there's any big ups. Oh, yes. Clemson, number 5 Clemson, lost to the Mountaineers
Oh,
69-67. And Gonzaga almost lost, and BYU almost lost, which those 4 play-in games, excellent, peak, perfect basketball, especially when the first game to open this tournament ended with a basket literally being scored, tossing the ball all the way across court to tip it in with 0.2 seconds left
ooh,
for the victory. And the
yeah.
crowd goes wild. Anyways, yeah. So if you're not into like the brackets and all that, the NIT second rank bracket is still going on too. All the other teams who don't make it to the tournament. All
Oh,
right. But yeah, so far it looks like looking at the scores, everyone is winning who was supposed to win. Looks like Mizzou and Drake are in a very close battle. Uh, and Arkansas is currently beating Kansas 47-44. So
okay.
watch those brackets, watch them get busted this weekend and definitely next weekend.
All right.
But while you're watching that, you should also be watching hockey because Alec Ovechkin watch is ramping up. He has scored his 887th goal of his career, meaning he's now 1 away from being Mr. 888, but also 8 away from breaking Wayne Gretzky's career goal record of 894.
Oh,
Now, he does have 14 games remaining in the season for the Washington Capitals. Will he score 8 goals in 14 games? The odds makers say no. But if he gets close, you can probably bet he's going to at least come back and they'll give him a 1-year contract to
sure.
stay with the
And
Capitals to
finish
break
it
the
up.
record.
Yeah.
Unless the Oilers or the Kings, 2 teams Gretzky played for, make an obscene amount of money in the offseason to pull Ovechkin away from the Capitals just so they can say he got the record as their team.
It could happen.
Could. Probably won't happen. I'm just throwing it out there as a possibility because this last sports story was never a possibility. I mean, it was to someone, but never a possibility.
Yeah.
The in basketball, the Boston Celtics of Boston, of course, are being shipped off. to Boston and
From
sold
Boston.
from Boston being sold. So Symphony Technology Group has agreed in principle to purchase the Boston Celtics from the Groesbeck family for a whopping $6.1 billion. If this goes through, it will make it the largest sale of a sports franchise in North American history.
Wow. That's crazy.
Assuming it goes through. Yeah,
Yeah,
$6.1
assuming it goes through.
billion. Boston Celtics is one of the most preeminent sports franchises
Yeah.
with
Hey,
all of their trophies.
didn't they win the finals last year?
Was that Boston?
Was that Boston?
Yeah, that was Boston. Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they did win.
Has that ever happened that a team that wins a championship is immediately sold?
No, typically it's the other way around where you
Right.
buy a team that's suffering and you
Right.
pour
And
so
then
much money into it that you
yeah.
eventually end up winning.
This is
Looking at
fascinating,
you,
right?
New York Mets, and
Yeah.
your pouring of money. Looking at you, Los Angeles Dodgers, and how you pour all
Dollars.
that money in there. It's
Freudian slip.
accurate. No, it's accurate. But yeah, normally you don't see like you win the championship and then you sell the team. But yeah, $6.1 billion. I don't know. You may buy a small country with that kind of money. I don't know. You may buy a presidency with that kind of money. I don't know. Just do whatever you want with it. Just it's $6 billion. Just just a casual six with a B. All right, get me to stop talking and let's talk about some TV news. I can't think about 6 billion anymore.
Yeah, no, that's too many money. Too many monies is what I was going to say. Too much money. All right. Speaking of money, let's go into television news and what always seems to be a moneymaker over the last 30 something years we've been alive have been the Power Rangers. Well, they're not gone. We finally learned what the future of their television presence will be, and it will take place on Disney Plus. In fact, Percy Jackson and the Olympians showrunners, Jonathan E. Steinberg and Dan Schatz, are in talks to write, showrun, and produce a live action Power Ranger series, which you mentioned over a text message. Why are they differentiating live action when they always are?
Yes.
Don't know. And 20th Century Television. Hasbro will produce the series since, they acquired the Power Rangers franchise back in 2018 from original owner Saban in a deal worth $522 million. The continuation of the series was last seen with Power Rangers Cosmic Fury and a special Power Rangers Once and Always film on Netflix in 2023. Are you excited for this potential project?
No, I am very hesitant at what this could be.
Interesting.
Because the one of the fun things about Power Rangers is that every episode is more or less a self-contained story with some through line for an overarching arc. What I fear this could be is Power Rangers in name only, and it's meant to be like a different take on the Power Rangers, which means it may or may not have the Super Sentai footage attached to it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Good point.
So, if you can't get the Super Sentai footage, but you still want to use the Power Rangers name in name only, what you could do is a up and coming story of life where it's about kids running from the 90s who watch the Power Rangers and then they themselves imitate the Power Rangers that they think they are in real life or like shoot their own fan made Power Rangers films. And it's a coming of age story done that way around the Power Rangers universe, but not
Maybe.
in the Power Rangers universe.
I thought you were going to say it was an isekai where they're like fans and then they get transported to Power Rangers world.
You could, but that's already like one of the iterations of Power
Oh,
Rangers.
that happened? Okay, never mind.
Yeah. I mean, I think they did it in time where like they were or Power Rangers Time Force, where they're Power Rangers of the future, but then go back in the past and create
Eh,
the history of the Power Rangers for the Power Rangers of the future.
well,
And there's also
we'll
been
see.
instances of fans of the Power Rangers becoming them themselves Power Rangers. Looking at you, Power Rangers Turbo.
Yeah, just keep saying Power Rangers.
Yes, eventually it will all make sense, especially
Power
when you
Rangers.
go with the like Dino Fury and Dino Thunder and Dino Zords and all the Dino stuff that they're going to go back and do. One thing that probably won't do is make any reference or mention to the 2017 Power Rangers film, which totally left us on a cliffhanger of what they could do going forward, and never will, because that was a Lionsgate property.
Oh well. All right, enough Power Rangers.
All right,
Do we have any television thoughts this week?
that depends. Did you watch Moana 2?
I did. That's not a television thought. That's a movie.
Oh, technically it's a movie, I guess. I did not watch Moana 2.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about that next week then.
Okay.
We'll push that. That's good. Just really brief. I don't have a full thoughts for it, but I've been watching Everybody's Live, the John Mulaney live show on Netflix.
Okay. How is
It's on.
that?
It's pretty much the same as the thing that he did, the shorter
The
version
live
of
in LA?
Everybody's in LA, which he did a
Yeah.
couple months ago. Same format, pretty much. Just guests. There's a theme. There's call-ins, and there's the occasional musical performance. Um, so far it's been catering to my interests in a weird specific way. Like this last episode, last night's episode had Kim Gordon of Sonic Youth on it.
Hmm.
So, maybe it's just for me in a lot of way. And Quinta Brunson, Nick Kroll, and Ben Stiller. So yeah, eclectic bunch. And they were talking about
Hmm.
cruise ships. Yeah, it's strange. Anyway, but yeah, so check it out if you like John Mulaney. That's pretty much ultimately the thing. It's like your mileage will 100% vary on how much you can deal with his stuff.
Okay. How
I
much
know
John
people,
Mulaney on
yeah.
or off cocaine can you handle?
He's sober now.
Now,
Now. So there's that. Anyway. All right, let's move on then. Cancellations and renewals.
what am I no longer watching?
You're no longer watching Solar Opposites, finally canceled after 6 seasons on Hulu. I guess they couldn't get Justin Roiland to roll into the recording booth at least once a month. Anyways, The Sex
No.
Lives of College Girls is canceled after 3 seasons on Max. I guess they learned how to have sex.
Well, technically, they didn't mean for the third season to be the final season.
Uh,
They are shopping it around to try and get a fourth season. It just
okay.
won't be on Max. And one of the showrunners, not Mindy Kaling, the other one, the other creator, said that they don't want it to end on the third season. They did have plans for a fourth season.
Oh, well. Well, we'll see if that gets picked up then.
Mhm.
Next up, some renewals. Beauty in Black will get a second season on Netflix. Landman, or Landman, if you will get a second season on Paramount Plus. A rare zombie television story, speaking of things getting picked up. Ted Lasso is not dead. Ted Lasso's mustache will rise from the grave and return to Apple TV Plus for a fourth season against all odds that I probably will not watch.
Caveat here. This
Okay.
is pre-production. This is in development.
Yeah.
This is Ted Lasso would come back to coach the women's Richmond Richmond FC team.
Sure.
At least that's what's being pitched as. That's what's being greenlit by Apple TV Plus. If
Okay.
it goes to actual shooting and production, then it will be an actual season four. But right now, temper all those expectations because
Okay.
this is still early development.
Well, we will find out then. Next up, Tulsa King gets a third season on Paramount Plus, and House of David gets a second season on Prime Video. I want to say we talked about the Percy Jackson renewal last week, which is why I skipped it.
Possibly, but also Percy
Yeah,
Jackson was in the Power Ranger story.
right. So that makes sense. All right. Let's move on to the last segment of the show here with movies. And we start, as always, with the weekend box office numbers. And all right, give yourself the point.
Yeah. All right.
You won
Uh,
this week.
okay. I mean, I could just give you like both the number one and number two and combine them,
No.
and then you'd still come up short.
Yeah, that wasn't the bet. I overestimated a horror movie in March.
You
I guess I should have.
overestimated by $10 million.
Yeah. So it ended up Novocaine only made $8 million. below the over-under of 19 that we had last week.
Yes.
So that means you win this round. Number 2, Black Bag, 7.6 million in its debut at number 2. Number 3, Mickey 17, 7.4 million. That's at 33. Number 4, Captain America Brave New World, hanging in there with 5.6 million. Again, that's only at 185. We will see if that hits 200. That is the watch right now. And then rounding out your top 5, kind of the success story of the week, the wow, it actually made some decent money story of the week, from being literally the scraps on the Warner Brothers floor. The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, made $3.1 million in its release. Note about this, it is not a full release. It is relatively limited. So this is a pretty impressive turnout. Consider how that Gundam movie did. And compare it to this.
Yeah.
And it is pretty good.
800,000 to 3 million.
In fact, it was so successful that one of your bits later, in comparison to what it was expected to do, that one of your bits later is actually a rare success story for this bunch, and might get them a new deal for something else.
We'll catch up with that
Get
story
there.
in a bit.
We will. But first, let's talk about this week's releases and make our bet. This week you
Oh,
have...
you have 2 other releases there.
Oh, well, yeah. Way down at number 6, The Last Supper made $2.7 million. And way down at number 12, Opus only made $1 million. You were
So Looney Tunes
almost
did
choosing that
better
last
than
week.
Opus.
You almost chose that last week.
I almost
Just
chose that.
remember that. But anyway, yes. This week, though, it is not an argument, because you have a big Disney release with the live action Snow White finally hitting theaters.
Mhm.
You also have Magazine Dreams and Ash.
Ash is another horror film. I've been seeing a lot more ads as that's been wrapping up for its release. And Magazine Dreams, which I had on here for a long time because it was supposed to be the comeback story of Jonathan Majors.
Ah, oof, ouch. Not a good
Yeah.
week for him.
And then, yeah, that cover story.
Yeah, no. No one will see that movie, especially after this. So yeah,
So,
your number
Snow
one
White.
movie will be Snow White. But God, how do we pull out a number for this one? I have no idea.
All right. Given the other recent film from Disney
Uh-huh.
adjacent, Captain America,
Yeah.
that did what, 80 million, I think, in its opening weekend over
Uh-huh.
4 days.
This is not
So,
such a weekend.
right.
And
And over the
additionally,
3 day weekend, it was at like 75. And
yeah,
I don't know who's excited for Snow White.
this is the thing about this movie, is that this movie has had nothing but bad press. Like, if you consider the bad press that Captain America got when its reviews hit, 10 times that amount. Ever since this was announced, this has been embroiled in controversy. You had the stuff about the depiction of dwarves, where you had literally, or sorry, little people. In the movie, they're dwarves. But you had, Peter Dinklage out there basically
Mhm.
saying what he thought about it, the representation in the film. Then you have how all the trailers make it look really, really terrible. Then you have controversy about one of the stars, Gal Gadot, and it all just, or Gadot, I never know. I don't care.
It's both.
And so you get kind of like this a big boiling pot of gross vibes from this thing, and I just don't know
And then you
anybody who
dip an
cares.
apple into said pot and you present it to Snow
Yeah.
White
Yeah,
to where
Disney is
she'll go with
presenting
sleep.
exactly.
To
Disney
the
is
mass
presenting a
audience, which
poison
they will take a
apple.
bite in
Yeah.
wishing that the prince of this film will be better than the sum of its parts, and then taking a bite and falling down, passing out. Not what is it called? Kids say unaliving herself.
Something like that. Anyway, I don't want to dwell on it, but yeah, I have no idea how this will do because of all the publicity. So do we want to put it at
Okay,
60?
I was gonna say 50. Okay, so we think it's gonna
50?
do better than Mickey 17 in its debut, which was
Oh, I think so.
over 20.
Definitely over 20. I think 50 feels right. Because
All
it's
right.
still, at the end of the day, it is still Disney. It's a known property. People will go out of curiosity's sake and for nostalgia's sake to a certain extent. Also, it's a family movie that will attract a little bit more of an audience than something that's R-rated like Nikki 17. I think 50 is fair. However, I am still taking under on that bad boy.
Really? Okay, I'll
Yeah.
take the over because I was going to put it at 55,
Okay.
57.
All right.
All right, so we're going to put it at 50 here. I'm going to go
We'll do
plus
50.
50.
I just have my doubts that people are that thrilled about it. I think this is a bomb
All right,
waiting to go off.
we will see where we stand next week.
All right. But in the meantime, we have so much movie news happening that we have rounded up in some bits for y'all.
All right, let's be
Our
honest. There's two
first,
main stories with a
yeah,
couple of like
couple small stuff.
fluff and some fluff in the middle.
We start with Village Roadshow Entertainment, the company that helped produce and finance franchises like The Matrix, Ocean's 11, Joker, and the Lego Movie. They have unfortunately filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Village Roadshow framed its ongoing arbitration dispute with Warner Brothers over The Matrix Resurrections as a turning point, which cost the company $18 million in legal fees and counting. So yeah, ultimately the debt that they ran up from that case just completely just ended their viability as a production house.
And this is what happens when small independent studios, although Village Roadshow with that kind of background, not
Yeah.
that small, but still the backing and monetary value behind it, cannot stand up to these corporate conglomerates. Even if they are in the right,
Mm-hmm.
corporations like Warner Brothers can drag out items in court and essentially, as you know, they say this in TV a lot, bleed the company dry. Here,
Yeah.
actual evidence of a company being bled dry from court legal
Yeah.
fees.
And it's sad just looking at this list. Those are some bangers. Those are some
Mhm.
banger franchises. They've been behind a lot of good movies in the past, and sad to see them go. All
Yeah.
right, next up in the bits, Disney has announced as of today that a Coco 2 is in production and is set for 2029 release from Pixar. I feel like if Disney hadn't gone into some real disgusting stuff in the last few years, I'd be more excited about this. As we've decided on this very podcast, Coco is probably the best Pixar movie. So it is
Mhm.
very sad to see the current Disney spearhead a sequel to it. I wish I was excited.
I wish I was excited as well, especially since when they announced this, they also released the new trailer for Elio.
Yeah. Which
Elio?
again,
Elio?
I wish I could be excited for that too, but it's just
Yes.
right now icky feelings about Disney and even Pixar to a certain extent.
And if you're wondering what these icky feelings are, notice we have not watched or talked about Win or Lose on Disney Plus.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it the week that it came out as that we weren't going to watch it. That's pretty much
Yes,
what we said.
that's what we
So
said.
yeah. Yeah. Just Google that. Anyway, next up, I guess he has a successful run this year because Conan O'Brien is set to return as the host of the 2026 Oscars. And yeah, I think this makes sense.
I mean, this does deprive us of all these questionings and thought experiences and theories floating around of who could host the Oscars. They've deprived us of all this content we could have created.
Not fun. Anyway, I think this is better this way.
I mean, I guess that means we have to throw in our names for the 2027 Oscars now.
Sure. Yeah. Bring us up. All right. Next up. So Neil Blomkamp, who is a director that I think people used to like and then has kind of put out middling shit since,
He put
is
up
set
that Gran Turismo movie recently.
exactly. So, thank you for proving my point. But he's been attached to directing new Starship Troopers movie. I don't think this is a good fit, is what I will say. Just my gut reaction is Starship Troopers is supposed to be campy, it's supposed to be a satire, it's supposed to be broad. That's the only way it works. Neil Blomkamp makes serious movies. Let's be real. Even
Are you
his
sure?
best movie,
Elysium wasn't that serious. Didn't take itself
eh,
seriously.
eh,
Chappie wasn't that serious. Didn't take itself
Chappie,
seriously.
having seen half of Chappie, we stopped watching because we didn't like the abuse that robot was going through on that by the hands of the lady from Die Antwoord. But
Which was the
up until
point of the
that
movie, but
point,
go ahead.
it was not a it was not a fun movie in any way. I thought it was really bleak. And then his best movie, District 9, which I loved,
Yeah,
is
tons of
very
camps everywhere.
serious and not a satire at all.
Very camp. Lots of camps everywhere in that film. What are you talking about?
I'm just saying that I want if I want a Starship Troopers movie, I want it to be broad and like campy, and I just don't think Neil Blomkamp can do camp. I just don't.
But he can do bugs.
He can do bugs. Well, we'll see what happens.
All right. Speaking of
And
bugs,
then lastly, yeah, speaking of bugs, but Bugs Bunny, that is, Warner Brothers is in negotiations to finally sell and release from the trash can Coyote versus Acme to Ketchup Entertainment in about the $50 million range. In case you don't know what Ketchup Entertainment is, as I didn't until this week, they are the same studio that rescued The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie in theaters now, which just made $3.1 million in its first weekend. I guess Warner thought, huh, maybe we can make some money, a little bit of money off of this thing. We'll sell it to those guys for $50 million and they'll scrape up the coins off the theater floors like they're doing with the this
they'll
Looney
take
Tunes movie.
whatever it is because with this, it'll be a full distribution takeover. Warner Bros. Would be in name only as a production
Yes.
company, but all profits from this would go to Ketchup Entertainment, just
Yeah.
like all profits for The Day the Earth Blew Up are
Yeah.
going to Ketchup Entertainment. And apparently, they liked a lot of what they saw with the return on it, that they went to Warner Brothers and said, let's have
Let's
that
do it.
one as well.
And it's a win-win, I feel. Not I'm putting a Warner out of this conversation. It's a
Yes.
win-win for audiences and for Ketchup because Ketchup gets to extend their name, they get to be involved in more projects, and the audiences get to see these good movies. I've heard great things about Day the Earth Blew Up, and we had already heard through the grapevine, through people who had seen it, that Coyote versus Acme is also a banger. So, two great Looney Tunes movies in a row. This could be a renaissance for a franchise that Warner is intent on destroying. You didn't have it in the TV news this week, but notable this week, Looney Tunes, the original Looney Tunes, have now been removed from Max.
Yes, they've
Warner,
gone to Tubi now.
yeah, they just took them out. So, like, Warner clearly does not care, and they're willing to make moves like this to prove that. But we still care. Like there's generations of people that are still alive that still really like the Looney Tunes, and it's cool to see that at least some company is out there doing the right thing and distributing these films, even though they're making, less than the average movie, but still more than, some movies, as we see with Opus this week.
I saw that story, but I didn't want to have two Looney Tunes stories
That's
to
fair.
talk about. But
That's fair.
yes, if you want to watch Looney Tunes, you can do so on Tubi now.
Like everything's just on Tubi now, is I think the lesson here.
Yep.
Anyway, so that's it for television or movie news, but you watched a couple of movies.
I watched two movies, both of which you probably won't see.
I know they're not maybe Mickey 17 when it comes to streaming, but I definitely, from what I've heard, will not see The Electric State.
All right. So let's start with the better. I don't know if I can say better of these. The more one
Oh,
I was more excited about, which was Mickey
sure.
17.
Yeah,
So I went and actually saw that in a theater, and I was
sure.
excited for this. Starring Robert Pattinson, fresh off his taking in Batman and Christopher Nolan films. He's also directed by Bong Joon-ho, who
Yeah,
directed Parasite and
yes.
Okja and Snowpiercer, films
Yeah.
I really like and the stories that they tell. And so here it comes Mickey 17, a story about cloning and being a clone and being an expendable clone, and all of a sudden thinking that your life doesn't matter. But really it does because all life matters. Or at
Mhm.
least that's what I thought this was going to be going into this
Yeah.
film. A story about how all life is precious, even if it is a clone life, that you can't just continuously kill someone over and over again for your own beneficial gain. A story that talks about how a clone is that of a slave to a corporation because they own the body, that you're no longer yourself, but maybe you want to be yourself, that you don't want to do this forever. And the person who made the original deal, Mickey 1, is not who you are now, Mickey 17, and you should have the right to be free from the
Mm,
corporation. Because that's a
okay.
better story than what we got with Mickey 17.
Okay.
I
Hmm.
didn't. as much as I liked what I saw in Mickey 17, there's a better story in here that is buried, that
Mm.
got chopped up, that got notes taken out, that got wrenched and screwed over. And uh it's hard to say that this is Bong Joon-ho's movie.
Do you think that it's fair to assume that a larger studio behind this and a larger distribution led to some manipulation?
You can definitely see a lot of notes taking place in this thing. You can
Uh-huh.
definitely see a lot of, well, we're paying a lot for this character, so we need more scenes here with this character. We need a bigger scene where all these characters meet here. We need something to help drive the plot here. And you see all these notes being thrown in here, and it definitely takes away from the source material of the original novel, Mickey 7, which tells the story of what I just said, more or
Yeah.
less. That it is like they take the bare roots of this of someone in a clone on going on a space colony, and like say, okay, and then just tells the story of being a space colony. Essentially, by the time you get to the end of it, there's no real reason why he's a clone anymore. There's no real
Mhm.
reason why this particular Mickey is any different from the previous Mickeys. Or there's no real reason why having it happen now couldn't have happened to any of the previous ones. It doesn't say that, like, oh, each clone gets smarter, which could have been something interesting. It could have been, like I said, like each clone is its own person and free from the individual contract, which could have been interesting.
Mhm.
Uh, even like when they bring in the aliens from the different planet, the aliens I feel are one, bugs, like big roly-poly bugs, but two, don't feel like they add any significant thing to the plot other than they are the inhabitants of this planet and big government corporations coming in and needs to exterminate them.
Mhm.
But they have no connection or iteration or any thematic connections to Mickey or the overarching theme of the movie, Mickey 17. And I felt that was sorely missing. Like you could have easily said that these creatures duplicate, like they themselves, like mitosis, whatever that process is, like
Yeah.
duplicate, and all of a sudden you
Right.
have two people, not or two like aliens, roly poly aliens, not clones, although they do look like clones, they do act like clones. They are their own individual person, and that could trigger Mickey to be like, well, I'm not just a clone of my previous iterations. I am more than the sum of what I have come before.
Sure.
But none of that. I felt like Bong Joon-ho easily could have done something like that. Easily could have made this more interesting than just a generic sci-fi film with generic tropes, and a lot of that's just gutted here.
You just it sounds like you just think that like it's a bit disjointed. You just wanted things to be in harmony in the plot and you just felt like there were elements that just seemed like they were kind of just there.
There were elements that were there, and I was kind of also waiting for the big twist to happen that Bong Joon-ho is
Sure.
kind of known for in the previous films that I mentioned, especially Parasite, where that twist 1 hour in completely flips the film on the its head.
Yeah.
Not so here. A lot of here felt like it was a very safe movie.
Well, yeah,
And
but
essentially it just becomes a very generic sci-fi movie.
here's a question though. Is it possible that winning Best Picture for Parasite has risen your bar too high? Like maybe he was just trying to make kind of, to use the classic parlance, a base hit as opposed to a home run here. Like maybe he was aiming towards something that was a little simpler and more direct.
Even if it was more simple and more direct, I think that the themes and the thematic elements could have been more cohesive in this film. Uh, Also, a lot of the tension doesn't feel like tension, doesn't wrap it up. By the time you get to the end, I don't really feel for these characters,
Sure.
but at least they're actual human characters that you could feel for, unlike the other movie.
Yes, that's a perfect segue. Okay, so I would say seems like Mickey 17, just not what you wanted it to be, and it's kind of disappointing is the vibe that I'm getting.
It's a fine movie. Like it's
Yeah.
fine to look at, fine visually, fine storytelling, but it's fine. There's nothing like I'm writing home to rub about. Nothing to say like you gotta watch this, or when it comes on Max, you gotta watch it because or wherever Peacock, whatever.
Right.
Like film, like high ranking film, like not even gonna break my top five, not even gonna break my top 10. Just I saw it, it happened, and I'm not really better or worse far off from it.
Fair enough. However, something that sounds like you are worse from is
The Electric State.
yes.
So this is one of the most expensive films from the Russo brothers, actually from Netflix, at $350 million by the Russo brothers. The guys who did uh, Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
Well, since they left Marvel, they've had middling reviews at best, with Cherry for Apple TV Plus and The Gray Man also for Netflix. And now here they are with The Electric State, which stars Millie Bobby Brown
Hmm.
and Chris Pratt in the human roles.
Yeah.
And I specify human roles because this is a
Yes.
alternate 1990s world where robots exist and have risen up to say that we do not want to be slaves and should be treated as people. And so they fight this war.
Hmm.
But we don't see the war. It's not about the war. It's about the aftermath of the war because the war ended 4 years ago. And here we are in this post apocalyptic or post dystopian sci fi world where there's a zone where the robots live and the humans live everywhere else. But in order to win the war, the humans had to use headcasters, basically VR headsets, to
Uh-huh.
pilot drone robots to fight the robots.
Wait. Okay.
Yes,
So they
yes,
weren't on the same team, even though both are robots,
yes.
because the humans made them. But who
Because the
made the
humans
robots?
pilot
Who made the other robots?
humans.
So, but because they're autonomous and
Yes,
not piloted,
yes,
they're separate. Okay.
yes,
Okay. I guess that makes sense.
yes. It makes sense until you go to the very end of the movie where you have robot on robot violence. These basically
Uh-huh.
a simulation of this war where you have these piloted robots fighting the robots from the zone.
Hmm.
I got to make other words here. The drones, piloted drones fighting the
Sure.
autonomous robots.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but because they're autonomous drones fighting robots, I, as a human, do not really care which side wins. Because if
Right.
the robot defeats the drone, well, the human's still safe wherever they are. If the drone defeats the robot, well, I guess technically they were like autonomous. I'm supposed to care for them, but it's a robot, so I'm not that invested in it.
Yeah, which seems like the number one problem in a movie, right? Like this,
Yes,
right? Which
because
is,
the movie never gives me a reason to care about these robots because it
yeah.
follows the human characters all throughout the damn story.
So immediately my brain went to Rogue One, a Star Wars story, which had a
Right?
subplot about a droid who wanted to free the other droids that they believed were imprisoned, essentially.
Yes.
I thought that worked, and I think part of it is because the personality of that robot was engaging, and that
Wait,
character.
was that Rogue One or Solo?
Oh Jesus, I don't remember. Is
That
that
was
Solo?
so. I think that was Solo because the robot
Uh,
then becomes part of the Millennium Falcon.
you're right. Sorry. Solo. I'm sorry. I got them both confused
It's
sometimes.
okay. They're both Star Wars stories.
Yeah, they're both different Star Wars stories. But yeah, that one worked for me because I think that that one does have like a compelling character with an interesting personality. And I think that's why you
Mhm.
want them to succeed. Also, it helps that that is a franchise where we're very familiar with droids. There are main characters who are droids that have been through a lot, and we are endeared to them. And we like droids and we want them to be free. But yeah, throwing us into a world where we're just meeting these robot characters and not
And
making
then
them endearing, I
and then
wouldn't care.
immediately within the first 5 minutes, you're like, these autonomous robots didn't like wanted to rise up and revolt against the people. And
Right.
so there was a war against it. I was like, whoa, 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 hold on. Like you're missing a whole lot of context here.
Yeah, and to bring back another subject from earlier, Chappie.
Mhm.
Chappie's entire plot is basically this, right? Just not about
Yes.
freeing a race, but just basically a robot who goes through some shit and you want them to succeed. And
Mhm.
that I think is done by just basically spending half the movie trampling all over Chappie until you want him to succeed, which didn't work
Yes.
for me either. But this one sounds like a worse version of both of those movies. And
It
also,
does.
Mr. Peanut is here?
Yes. Woody Harrelson as Mr. Peanut is here. And
Why?
Mr. Peanut is the leader of the robots.
But Mr. Peanut's a peanut. He's not a robot.
Okay, so yes, I need to explain something in here which bugged the hell out of me watching this thing. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Because so this is based off a book called The
Yeah.
Electric State that was written in 2018, mind you.
Ah, yes.
The actual book takes place between 1992 and 1994,
Okay.
or 1990 and 1994. All right. Somewhere along the lines, this person in 2018 made up this world in 1990 that, you know how Disney has animatronics? Both
Uh-huh.
of those animatronics were like actual robots.
Okay. Yeah. They were that they like the act like the when you went to see Great Times with Mr. Lincoln, Mr. Lincoln gets off after that show and has like a coffee break.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Like you go to Pirates of the Caribbean, at the end of the
Right.
day, that they're all hanging out
Yeah.
across in the Tiki Lounge.
They have lives, they have shifts, like they're
Yes.
working there. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Except they're robots. They're just working there as pirates or
Right.
as Mr. Lincoln. They're not, that's not who they are, who they want to
Yeah.
be.
They have internal lives.
Yes. Well, they want to revolt and rise up because they don't want to do that forever, every
Right.
day, without breaks because they want
Yeah.
to,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, not they want to be themselves. They don't feel like they're
Uh-huh.
themselves. They're not being fulfilled. So
Yeah.
that's why this robot war breaks out
Uh-huh.
and revolt against the humans. And then the humans use robots to pilot these drone robots to defeat the autonomous robots. And so you have
Yes.
robot on robot violence
Right.
in 1990. And to
Uh-huh.
defeat them in 1990, you use VR headsets in
Uh-huh.
1990 to pilot these
So
drones in 1990 to defeat
yeah.
robots in
Okay.
1990.
So how does this relate to Mr. Peanut?
Oh, Mr. Peanut is like the leader of the robots.
But again, why?
Why? Doesn't say. Just because it is Mr. Peanut.
But he's not a robot. He's a peanut.
Right. Robot Mr. Peanut is the robot, the leader of the resistance
Are we just to
in
assume that in this
1990.
version, yeah, are we just to assume that in this version of the early 90s that there's an animatronic version of Mr. Peanut, the mascot, somewhere, and he is sentient?
Yes.
Okay,
We're
okay,
also
that's the missing
supposed to
piece.
believe we're also supposed to believe that in 1990 you can have a VR headset that allows you
Right.
to control an autonomous drone robot.
That I'm less like about because I get that this is a sci-fi movie and they've invented this sci-fi reasoning. I guess that bugs me less.
Really?
However,
That
this
bugs
does
me a
seem,
whole lot.
yeah, it does seem like though
Because
that
do you
there, if
realize how slow internet was in 2000
yes, but again, if we're
compared to
to ass-
1990?
but if we're to assume that this per that the robots are this intelligent in the 90s and have gained sentience in this way, that AI, that means AI was more advanced than it is even now. And that all then we can extrapolate out from that the rest of technology is different too. I get
Oh my
that.
God, that means the Cold War never happened in this world.
Maybe not. But
The
again,
space race was won, and we continued in the space race technology. There's
but
so much more to this world than just these damn robots that
and
we
this is
never
the
get to see or explore.
and this is where I'm going next, which it seems like they did a lot more thinking about what they wanted the robots in this movie to do than they wanted to flesh out the world and actually explain the rules. And maybe your mileage is better just reading the book, is what I'm hearing from this conversation.
Novel, but yeah,
Yeah,
illustrated graphic
books are
novel.
novels. Novels are books. Come on.
All right. But yeah, there's a lot more like within the novel that
Hmm.
isn't in the book, especially like, or sorry, not is in the movie, which is like why. Millie Bobby Brown's character is going to like essentially save her brother, trying to find where her brother is, why her brother is connected to everything. Spoilers, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
Why her brother is like very important in this. Chris Pratt, you could put anybody in that role. Wouldn't have made a hell of a difference.
Sure. I mean, that's normal
Robot
for him.
voices, could put anybody in those roles. Wouldn't make a hell of a difference. It
Anyway,
feels like it's
sounds
more
like this movie is bad.
spectacle. It's more spectacle and more like visually, but I feel like
Uh,
we've seen better visuals and spectacles in other films, like we brought up on
sure.
this very podcast, like
Yeah,
Chappie, like
right.
District 9.
And like Solo, even though Solo is not the best of those movies, it's still better probably than this.
At least I cared when that robot died.
Yeah, exactly. And so, spoiler. So yeah, I guess what I'll say is it sounds like that maybe the Russo brothers are given too much freedom.
Which could exactly be why they're going back to Marvel.
Yeah, yeah. Like go back home where you have a little bit more restraint as opposed to complete blank checks to write whatever like dumbass movies that you want or direct, I guess in this case. But yeah, okay. So don't see the Electric State, people.
And anyways, I have write-ups for both of these movies that'll go up on the website
Yeah, I'm
shortly.
behind on those, so I'll get all of those up soon.
It's all
It's
right.
been busy.
That's okay.
But yeah.
Other than that, I think I talked to death about those movies, and I think we're
Okay.
done. Unless you got anything else.
No, we're ending perfect timing, so let's wrap it up, shall we? Thank you for watching the Media Boat podcast this week. We'll be back next week for another episode. But guess what? You don't have to just watch it. You could listen to it too. We're on YouTube. If you want to see us in video form, just go to YouTube and search Media Boat Podcast to find our channel. Like, subscribe, and click the bell for notifications when new videos go live. You can also listen to us on audio form on any podcast service that you are a member of. Just search Media Boat Podcast and you'll find us there, including Spotify. You can also find us on the internet. MediaBoatPodcast.com is our website. Twitch.tv/MediaBoat is where you can find Mike. He was just playing some football this past week, I believe.
Yep.
Saw the notification. And then you can also find us on social media, such as Blue Sky, where if you enter Media Boat Podcast, you could find us. And then we'll be back next week. Oh, yeah. And also, if you have questions, comments, feedback about the show, you can email us at mediaboatpodcast@gmail.com. Send us your questions there, and we'll read them on the show. But yes, we'll be back next week for a new episode. We'll have new thoughts, new news, new everything. We'll talk about the full first week of baseball as MLB season starts in earnest.
Yep. We got opening day next Thursday. We got
Yep.
brackets being busted as we go along the way in
Yep.
basketball. We will get to Moana 2 next
Yes,
week.
we'll talk about.
I hopefully swear we do.
Yeah, we'll talk about Moana 2 next week. I have some thoughts about that thing.
All right. Well, hold your thoughts or write them down, and we'll get to
Yeah.
it next
All
week.
right.
Just like we'll get to
Sounds
you
good.
guys next week. All right.
All
Bye.
righty. Bye.